What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Elite Sports Talk. This is episode 18. Just as a quick reminder, you can find Elite Sports Talk on all the major platforms, though right now we are trying to push for people to follow us on Spotify. But really, like I said, anywhere that podcasts can be found. We're also on social media. You can find Elite Sports Talk Facebook, IG, and TikTok. TikTok's pretty cool. I'm going to start doing some live stream from TikTok within the next few weeks or so. Really probably after the NBA and NHL season wraps up to get prepared for the NFL season. And I also have an Elite Sports Talk Substack page. I would appreciate it if you go and check that out. You can find pretty much, all the episodes for Elite Sports Talk, along with other content, written articles, and really a bunch of content that's going to be coming out soon. So go ahead and reach out on Substack and subscribe. And so like I said, today it is episode 18 of Elite Sports Talk. We're going to be going, and pretty much like we've been the past couple of episodes, running back through the review of the last week or so of the NBA playoffs. We got some NHL playoffs. I have something called NBA Off-Season SHAKEUP. We got some more likelies, today in sports history, and then we'll end it off with my picks for tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday's games for both NBA and NHL. So let's go ahead and get into it. Yeah, so as the graphic just showed, we already know everything's been set for the second round of the playoffs. A couple of games have already been played in the NBA. A couple of games will be played game one for tonight. But first, let's go back to last Thursday. First game of last Thursday, which was April 30th. The New York Knicks ended up not only defeating the Atlanta Hawks, but demolishing the Atlanta Hawks, thus keeping the Hawks in Atlanta. That's right, the game was in the ATL. And, it's not really much to like from Atlanta's side. Jalen Johnson, he was the man of the game for the Hawks. 21 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. He went 2 of 5 from 3, 7 of 15 from the floor. CJ McCollum didn't really get off to a great start. He only wound up with 11 points and 3 rebounds. Alexander Walker also only with 11 points. Jonathan Kuminga had 11 off the bench. Guys, this isn't anything that we didn't see coming. Atlanta did take 2 games from the Knicks, but we all kind of knew coming into the postseason that the Knicks were one of the favorites to probably reach the Eastern Conference Finals. So letting a team like Atlanta beat them in the first round would have been, very traumatizing for New York fans. Atlanta really didn't have enough. They had enough to win 2 games. Certainly, I think they could have even ended up, maybe getting to a game 7. But it's just they didn't have enough to be able to contend with a team like the Knicks and take them down in a 7-game series. When you look at the Knicks side, OG Anunoby had 29, 7, and 2. Bridges had 24, 5, and 3. Jalen Brunson, 17 and 8 assists. Josh Hart, 14, 5, and 2. Karl Anthony Towns, this was insane. Karl Anthony Towns was just 1 of 4 from the floor. and he managed to get a triple-double, 12 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists. He was 10 of 10 from the free throw line. And actually, if you didn't see, after the game, for the post-game interview, the reporter, gosh, I forget who the reporter was, but she actually pointed that out. Did you realize that you ended up with a triple-double and only 1 of 4? And he was shocked. He didn't even know. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And then when you look at how I've been doing like the breakdown of the stats of the whole game, team stats, and I mean, it was a 0. It was a goose egg for Atlanta. Everything swung in the favor of the Knicks. Field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage, total rebounds, 46 to 35. Total assists, 33 to 22. Steals, that's a good one. The Knicks had 16. Atlanta only had 5. Turnovers, this is one of the things that really killed Atlanta. They had 19 turnovers, and those 19 turnovers led to 26 points for New York. Fast break points, 35 to 8 for the Knicks. So, I mean, again, man, it wasn't just about turnovers, but that's a large reason why they got blown out in this type of fashion. Largest lead of the game, Atlanta held only a 4-point lead. The Knicks, of course, had a 61-point lead at one point in the game. The final was 140 to 89. So, sayonara, see you later. Hopefully for Atlanta, they can figure something out for next year and maybe get a little further into the postseason. Then let's go to the second game Thursday. It was Game 6 between the Philadelphia Sixers and the Boston Celtics, a game in which Philadelphia ended up winning 106-93. Joel Embiid, 19, 10, and 8. Maxey had 30 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds. Paul George had 23, 4, and 3. Kelly Oubre Jr., 14 and 9. VJ Edgecombe had 14 points, 8 rebounds. Then you look at Boston. Jaylen Brown paced them in points with 18. Jason Tatum a double-double with 17 and 11 rebounds. And then Derek White with 11 points. Outside of that, they didn't really get a whole lot out of the rest of their starters. Their top guy off the bench, Luka Garza, did have 9 points, but their top guy was Peyton Pritchard with 14, 3, and 5, although he was only 1 of 8 from 3. I mean, overall, in this game, they shot 12 of 41 from 3. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. Boston, with the team stats, that largely also swayed in favor of Philly, 12-1 in terms of all those stats there. So they go into a Game 7 from there, right? So the last game on Thursday night was one that was near and dear to me. It was the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. We all know what happened. Minnesota, you know, this whole series, they really came to play, and it's nothing new. You know, we talked about it before. This is now the third time in the past 4 years, I believe, that Denver has faced Minnesota and ended up losing to Minnesota in the playoffs. This one was without Anthony Edwards. It was without Dante DiVincenzo. And actually, it was also without Dosunmu. Sorry, I think I mispronounced the name there. But, so yeah, man. I mean, there was no reason for the Nuggets to lose this one. Not saying anything about McDaniels or Terrence Shannon Jr. or Julius Randle. Obviously, Rudy Gobert is a beast. But They should have been able to get the job done here and bring it back to Denver for Game 7. That did not happen. But for Denver, they did get still a lot out of two guys. Nikola Jokic, like always, 28 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds. So, yeah, he didn't get his triple-double, though that really wouldn't have mattered. They still lost by, 12 points. Cam Johnson had 27, 8, and 3. Jamal Murray just 12 points. That's another big factor for them. Obviously, again, they were without Peyton Watson throughout the entire series. They had been without him really since like February, I believe it was. Aaron Gordon, he played, I guess, 1.5 games in the series. So not having those two really hurt them. Tim Hardaway certainly could have did a little bit more. Spencer Jones was kind of up and down in this series. He was the reason for one of the wins for the Nuggets. They ended up winning 2 games. Christian Brown, just 3 points. Bruce Brown, just 1 point. So, like, this rotation, this was supposed to be the best rotation that Denver had come playoff season since 2023-24 season when they won the NBA championship. And it wasn't enough. But kudos to Jaden McDaniel. Everybody's seen, after Game 5, I believe it was, when he said, the Nuggets, they can't play defense. And he was saying this about Murray and this about Jokic. And, he definitely backed his talk up. He ended this game 6, with 32 and 10. Terrence Shannon Jr., 24, 6 and 1. Julius Randle had 18. Rudy Gobert was 2 assists shy of a triple-double with 10 points, 13 rebounds. He also had 2 blocks as well. Mike Conley, the savvy vet, had 7 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. And then Naz Reid with 15, 7, and 4 off the bench. So yeah, I mean, same thing as I said about the last two. When you look at the team stats, it was largely in favor of Minnesota. Turnovers, 13 by Denver, only 7 by Minnesota. Points off a turnover, 16 for Minnesota, only 10 for Denver. Fast break points, which the Nuggets have been great with all year. For the past couple of years, really, they're one of the best teams in the league at fast break points. They just had 7. Minnesota had 13. Points in the paint. The Nuggets led 64 points in the paint, and they only put up 40. Largest lead of the game. They had a 5-point lead at one point. 12-point lead was the largest for Minnesota in this one. They were out assisted. They were out rebounded, both offensive and defensively. Free throw percentage went Denver's way. 3-point percentage slightly went Denver's way. But, so now, they already came out and said that David Adelman is going to be safe for the Nuggets, which I think that's fair. I don't think it's necessarily a coaching issue. I think it's that they need to get more defense, which, I mean, people have been seeing this. We've been talking about this for, pretty much ever since Nikola Jokic has been the starter for the Nuggets. Yes, defensive efficiency was way up there. They were like top 5 in the league the year they won the championship, although they also had Michael Porter Jr. at that point and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. So now we don't really know what we're going to get moving forward. It's already been put out there that maybe they could wind up trading a couple of pieces. It looks like the only person that's safe on the roster would be obviously the historic Nikola Jokic. I would like to see Murray be back there next year. I'd like to see AG too, but I don't think it's far-fetched to maybe see him go. Christian Brown needs to step up big time if he wants to remain on the roster after getting his big deal. I believe his contract, the first year of that deal, kicks in this upcoming season, or next season rather, I should say. But I'd like to see them retain Peyton Watson. He is undoubtedly their at least second best defender. Only AG I would put above him. But anyway, let's go ahead and get on to Friday's games. The first game was the Detroit Pistons and the Orlando Magic. And in this one, Orlando complete collapse. Now remember, guys, they started the series off. They were up 3-1. And after this game, everything was squared up, 3 games apiece. Detroit won 93-79, largely because of everybody. We keep talking about him all year long. Cade Cunningham, 32, 10, and 3. Tobias Harris had a great series, but he had a great game 6, 22 and 10. Let's see, Duncan Robinson, 14, 5, and 3. Jalen Duren, again, not really. You'd like to see more out of this guy, man, but 8 and 9 is what he ended up with. Amon Thompson had 4 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. Then you look at the other side, Desmond Bane and Paolo Banchero, both 17 apiece. Banchero actually had a double-double with 10 boards as well and 6 assists. Wendell Carter Jr. had 9 points. Jalen Suggs, triple sevens, 7 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. He was only 1 of 10 from the floor, 1 of 6 from 3, though he hit all 4 of his free throws. De Silva had 10 and 6 off the bench, but just like we've been doing with the other games, when you look at the team stats, it swayed 9-3 in favor of Detroit. I guess really the biggest thing here would be, I guess, points in the paint. Well, total rebounds too, actually. 52-38 in favor of Detroit. Free throw percentage was, extremely close. 3-point percentage, it was 33.3 to 25%. Field goal percentage, Detroit had 34.6 for Orlando. Assist was actually in favor of Orlando. Points in the paint, 36-24 in favor of Detroit as well. And the largest lead, only a 14-point lead for Detroit, but a 24-point lead for Orlando. They just could not hold on, obviously. The second game on Friday, Toronto Raptors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. This game was in Toronto. Toronto ended up winning 112-110 in OT. Scotty Barnes had 25, 7, and 14 assists to pair with 3 steals and 3 blocks. Walter had 24 and 5. RJ Barrett 24, 9, and 3. Let's see. And then you look at the other side. Evan Mobley, 26 and 14. Donovan Mitchell, 24, 5, and 2. James Harden, 16, 9, and 9. Jared Allen, 14, 7, and 1. Max Strus, 6 and 5. Dean Wade, 10 and 5 off the bench, and Dennis Schroeder was 7 of 8 from the free throw line. That's where he got all 7 of his points. And this was just like every other win. The team stats show 11-3 in favor of Toronto. Friday, the third game on Friday was the Lakers and the Houston Rockets. The Lakers ended up winning by 20 points, thus winning the series 4-2. They won the game 98-78. LeBron, 28, 7, and 8 as a 41-year-old man. And obviously still without Luka. Reeves played in this one. He had 15, 3, and 2, though he did not have as much as Rui, 21, 6, and 2. Marcus Smart, 7 and 7. DeAndre Ayton, only 7 points, but he did have 16 boards. Laravia, 7 and 5. That was their key guy off the bench. When you look at Amon Thompson, I'm sorry, earlier I said Amon Thompson. I meant Asher Thompson for Detroit. Amon Thompson is on Houston. He had 18, 8, and 3, and he paced the Rockets in scoring. Alperen Sengun, 17 and 11. Tari Eason, 14 and 5. Reed Shepherd had 10 points. Jabari Smith had 9 and 12 rebounds. Yeah. They shot 5 of 28 as a team from 3. Houston, 12 of 28 was what the Lakers shot. And just like every other game, again, the team stat shows 11-2 in total categories here. Lakers, without Kevin Durant, I think it was kind of assumed that this was going to happen. And to be honest with you, even with all the talent that Houston has, I think that it says something about their team that they were even able to win 2 of these games without KD. Now, if KD would have played, with the Lakers not having Doncic and Austin Reeves obviously missed like the first 4 or 5 games of that series, it could have been a different outcome. I could have even seen Houston winning. In fact, I can't remember who I took for the whole series. I want to say that I think I did take Houston, just thinking that they would be without Luka and AR for the whole series. But again, man, it's the way that Houston played without KD throughout that entire series. It's a testament that they were able to actually beat the Lakers in 2 of these games. So then we get to Saturday. There was one and only one NBA playoff game. This was Game 7. The Sixers to Boston Celtics in Boston. 45 minutes before the game, they were told that Jason Tatum was not going to play. So 45 minutes before the game is when I knew that the Sixers were going to win the series. Now, this is why I like to toy with Philadelphia fans. Not that I have such a deep hatred for the Sixers. I'm not really a baseball guy, so the Phillies don't really matter to me. I'm a major NFL guy, and I always say that I hate the Eagles. Technically, I don't really hate the Eagles. I even like players on the Eagles, but it's just the fan base that I can't stand. And, Dallas fans are the same way. There's a lot of fan bases like this. LA fans. But my whole thing is that the Sixers coming into this series, you have diehard fans saying, oh, we're going to lose the series. Embiid's not healthy. He never plays, especially when it's playoff time. Maybe even saying stuff about Paul George. I've been telling people all along, watch out for the Sixers. If they get healthy with this rookie and VJ Edgecombe, with this superstar abilities of Tyrese Maxey, with PG knowing what he could do and what he's always been able to do throughout his career, coming back from that suspension, it was a stupid suspension, on his part, and Embiid's always hurt. Trust me, I know. I'm always talking down about him. And when the comparisons, which there is no comparisons really anymore, but whenever there was those Jokic Embiid comparisons, I was always the first to say, how can you compare a guy that never plays to a 3-time MVP who should really be probably a 5-time MVP? But again, I was warning people. I was telling them, man. And Philly fans, I don't even think that they even could see this coming. And I was saying, if Embiid comes back and Philly could some way, somehow will them to a Game 7, watch out. And look, I was right? Although I did not know that Embiid was going to be able to come back as soon as he did, which really gave even more firepower for me to think and to say that they could possibly beat the Celtics. So they ended up winning this one 109-100. The story of the game, well, first let's look at the stats. 34, 12, and 6 from Embiid. Maxey also with 30, 11, and 7. Now, this duo, there was a stat to be said about that. I can't remember exactly what it was. for two players to get 30 or more in a series in the same game. I forget, man. But VJ Edgecombe, the rookie, 23, 6, and 4. Paul George had 13. Let's see. They went 11 to 28 from 3. Jaylen Brown on the other side, 33, 9, and 4 with 3 blocks. Derek White also had 3 blocks to add to his 26, 6, and 4 stat line. Luka Garza, goose egg. Harper, goose egg. Man, they had 3 guys off the bench in Pritchard, 13 points, Sam Hauser with 11, and Quitta with 17 and 12, a double-double here. But they went 13 of 49. I believe that's like 27%. In this series, which we know this about the Boston Celtics, right? In recent history, it shows that they live and die by the 3, right? And, I mean, obviously, it's what killed them. Yes, Jason Tatum not being there also largely killed them. Had he have played, it could have been a different game. They only lost by 9 without him. So you gotta wonder, if he did play, would they win the game? They would have had a definite better shot than they did. But here we go. First, let me just say this. In the series, on open threes, on open 3-point attempts, they were 60 of 180 attempts. That's 33%. And yes, they were 27%, 13 from 49, or 13 of 49 in Game 7. So again, like I just said, they live and die by the 3. We know that Joe Mazzulla, this is what he likes to do. They like to take a lot of threes, open or not. But if you're missing that many threes on open threes, and it came down to, there was like 5 or 6 maybe in a row 3-point attempts that Boston took to end the game, and they missed every single one of those. Peyton Pritchard was 2 of 7. Derek White 5 of 16. Jaylen Brown just 3 of 9. Which, I mean, in retrospect, that wasn't a terrible percentage, but Derek White, 5 of 16. Man, I don't know. I don't even know if they're going to have changes or not. I don't know what they're going to do. Obviously, if you don't know, Jaylen Brown, he went and live streamed on, I believe it was Twitch, and he was talking about how this has been the best season of his career. And for him individually, yes, that is true. Although it does kind of come off, like, because he played without Jason Tatum for most of the season, basically the whole season. It comes off as like saying that maybe he doesn't want to play with him anymore. I don't really know. I don't really know how to take that. Everybody's been analyzing this. But to get back to the stat that I was getting to, Embiid and Maxey now become the first NBA duo in NBA history to get 30 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in a Game 7. Embiid averaged 32 points and 10.5 rebounds versus the Knicks in 2 games this season, which we're getting to that in just a few moments here. So when you look at the team stats, it swayed 8-4 in favor of Philly, which no surprise. Then we get to Sunday here. Sunday, there was 2 Game 7s in the NBA. The first was held in Detroit. And again, Orlando started this series off. They were up 3-1. I actually think that I had them beating Detroit. I knew that they would win in Detroit at least one game. They ended up winning both of those games, I believe, if I remember. But they won this one. Detroit won 116-94. Cade with another 32-point game. This was a double-double for him with also 12 assists, 2 blocks, and a rebound. Tobias Harris, like I said, this whole series he's been playing very, very great. Very, very good, rather. 39-2. 5 of 7 from 3 steals and a block. Jalen Duren, okay, we finally got a little more from Jalen Duren in this one. 15 points and rebounds. He was 5 of 6 at the charity strip. He had a steal. Duncan Robinson had 10 and 6 with 3 assists, 3 steals. Then we get back to Asor Thompson, had 8, 4, and 4. Jenkins off the bench, 16, 3, and 5. He was 4 of 5 from 3, 5 of 8 from the floor. And then you go back to Orlando here. Paolo Banchero seemingly did everything he could to help his team win this one. 38, 9, and 6. 4 of 7 from 3. 6 of 8 from the free throw line. Desmond Bane, 16, 3, and 3. Wendell Carter Jr., 13 and 5. Jalen Suggs, 6, 4, and 4. He was 0 of 4 from 3. 4 steals, 2 blocks. And Suggs actually got hurt towards the very end of this game. Or was it right before halftime? I think it was actually right before halftime. Where he was shooting a 3/4 court shot, really. Donovan Mitchell, what am I talking about? I forget. Somebody came down. Oh, Cade. Maybe it was Cade came down, on where his Achilles is or whatever in the back. Suggs ended up being okay, but they could have got a lot more from him, certainly from Desmond Bane. Anthony Black had 11 and 5 off the bench. Mo Wagner, 5 and 2, and obviously we know Franz Wagner was hurt and could not play. It could have been a different game. Could have been a different game if Franz Wagner was healthy. Could have been a different game if they got a little more from Desmond Bane and Jalen Suggs. I don't want to say that I'm shocked, but I did kind of think Orlando was going to be able to win the series. But it's crazy. And the team stats, just like every other win, team stats show largely in favor of Detroit. And if you did not know, this was the first time in NBA history that 2 teams in the same round of the playoffs both came back being down 3-1. We're talking not only Detroit Pistons, but the Philadelphia Sixers as well. We've seen a team come back from 3-1 deficits in 2 separate rounds of the playoffs in the same season, and that was the Denver Nuggets. They had an opportunity to be the first team in NBA history to do that 3 times as a team. Obviously, they fell short. We already talked about that one. Let's see. So then we go to the other Game 7 that was played on Sunday. We're talking the Cleveland Cavaliers at home against the Toronto Raptors. Cleveland going into this series was largely favored, I feel like. The Cavs all time are 7-2 in Game 7s. And in this one, Scotty Barnes for the Raptors had 24, 9, and 6. RJ Barrett had 23, 4, and 6. Sheed had 14 and 7 assists. Walter had 13 points. Jakob Poeltl, 9 and 7. Didn't really get a ton of production off their bench. They went 8 of 28 from 3. Whereas Cleveland was 11 of 39 from 3. Jared Allen had a monstrous game, man. This was the best game I've seen out of Jared Allen, and I couldn't tell you how long. He had 22 points, 19 boards, 3 blocks, 2 steals, 2 assists. Donovan Mitchell had 22. James Harden, 18, 6, and 3 with 3 steals. only 1 of 5 from 3, which is, pretty surprising. That's just 20%. Evan Mobley, 13 and 7. Merrill had 13 off the bench. Strus had 12, 8 and 5. Tyson, 7, 9, and 4 off the bench. Schroeder didn't really play a whole lot in this one, just 13 minutes. The player of the game was obviously Jared Allen. They did get the win, 114-102. Again, the stats show 8-5 in favor of Cleveland. Now, this is actually the third straight year that the Cavs are going into the second round. So then we get to yesterday. We just had 2 games, obviously. So the first game, New York Knicks against the Philadelphia Sixers. Oh, man. Okay, so let's just backtrack for a second here, right? So the last 2 wins that the Knicks got in the first round against Atlanta, they were up by at least 30 points at some point in the game, right? They also won both of these games by 25 points or more. Jalen Brunson went off, man. I mean, he had 35 points in this one. 50% from 3 of 6. Perfect from the free throw line. 12 of 18 from the field. 2 steals. Then you had Anunoby with 18 points. Karl Anthony Towns, 17, 6 and 6. Mikal Bridges, 17, 2 and 5. Josh Hart, 8, 8 and 6. 19 of 37 from 3. The Sixers, Paul George led them with 17. That's right, he led them in scoring with 17. Embiid had 14, Maxey had 13, Kelly Oubre had 12, and VJ Edgecombe had 12. Guys, their starters averaged about 26 minutes in this one. It was so big of a blowout, it's not even funny. The final score was 137-98. And to get back to what we were talking about here, so now this is 3 games, counting this first game of the series against the Sixers, where the Knicks have been up by 30 or more in a game and have won by 25 or more in 3 consecutive games, which this is actually a record in NBA history, most games that has happened. On top of that, Jalen Brunson had 35 or more in 5 straight games against Philly now. Stats, 12-2 in favor of the Knicks here. Their largest lead of the game was 40 points. For Philly, their largest lead of the game was just 3 points. Points in the paint, 58-32 with the Knicks. 16-3 fast break points. Points off of turnovers, 25 for the Knicks, only 13 for Philly. Philly had 19 turnovers, and the Knicks only had 14. The Knicks had 10 steals. Philly had 6. They had more than double the amount of assists that Philly had, 34-15. Total rebounds, 39-28 in favor of the Knicks. 3-point percentage, 51.5 for the Knicks, 36.7 for Philly. Field goal percentage was a doozy, 41.1 to the Knicks, 63.1. So the other game on Monday was San Antonio Spurs at home taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Spurs had the ball last. They grabbed a rebound off of Minnesota's miss. They ran down the court, and I'm not sure if it was Champagny or Castle or Vassell. It was one of those 3, I believe, that took the last shot of the game. I believe it was a 3-pointer. They missed it. They ended up going down 104-102 at home to Minnesota. And listen, guys, Ant Edwards, for the first time in his career, I believe, he came off the bench. He only ended up playing 25 minutes in this one. He, off the bench, had 18, 3 and 3, 2 of 3 from 3. Julius Randle led the way with 21, 10, and 2 assists. Jaden McDaniels had 16 and 5. Terrence Shannon Jr., 16 and 5. Mike Conley, 12, 2 rebounds, 6 assists. Rudy Gobert had 7 points and 10 rebounds to go along with 1 block, but 4 steals. Naz Reid, also off the bench, had 12 and 9. And then you look at the Spurs. It's crazy how this game ended up going because, there was 19 lead changes. There was actually 17 ties as well. But for Wembanyama, this was a historical performance, not so much from a scoring aspect. He only had 11 points. But he actually had 15 rebounds, 12 blocks, and 5 assists. Wembanyama set an all-time record, guys, in blocks in a single preseason game. I believe the record prior to this was 10 points between 3 different players, and he surpassed that by 2 more blocks. If he would have had 5 more assists and had a quadruple double, I would have lost my freaking mind, to be honest with you. Especially if they still would have lost the game. De'Aaron Fox had 10, 3, and 6. Vassell had 14 and 5. Champagnie 17 and 7. And Castle also had 17 points to go along with 5 assists and 5 rebounds. Harper had 18, 4, and 4. And this was a rarity in this one because this is one of those games where the team stats don't necessarily show the whole picture. To prove it, the Spurs, actually, the stats swung in their favor, 8-6 here. Also, I don't think I already said this, but Wembanyama became only the 3rd player in NBA history with a triple-double with blocks. I think that's in the playoffs. I could be wrong. That could be, just overall. But, yeah, man, the stats show how close this one really was. The Spurs had 1 more rebound, 47-46. They actually out-assisted Minnesota 24-20, 14 blocks to 5, and again, 12 alone came from Wemby. 7 steals to 4, that was in favor of Minnesota. Minnesota only had 10 turnovers and got 15 points off of those. Gave up only 15 points off of those. The Spurs had 13 turnovers, which converted into 11 points for Minnesota. Fast break points were in favor of the Spurs, 27-10. Points in the paint were slightly in favor, 58-52 to the Spurs. Largest lead of the game, just 7 points for the Spurs, 9 points for Minnesota. So now when you look at the overall matchup record so far, so you go back to the first round, and between OKC and Phoenix, in the playoffs, OKC swept them. In the regular season, they actually won 3-2. So overall, they won 7-2. The Spurs and the Trailblazers, the Spurs took them. It was a gentleman's sweep, 4-1. They also beat them 2-1 in the regular season, so 6-2 overall. Minnesota and Denver, this one is a good one because obviously Minnesota won the series 4-2. In the regular season, Denver actually won 3-1. So overall this year, it was a tie, 5-5. And again, that's why when you look at that, if Peyton Watson and Aaron Gordon would have played, no disrespect to Minnesota, but Denver would have, certainly should have won that series, even if it still would have went 7 games. I firmly believe, after watching between 75 to 82 games a year for the past 6-7 seasons now with the Denver Nuggets, that they would have won that series even with a lack it wouldn't have been as much of a lack of defense if both of those two guys would have played in Peyton Watson, Aaron Gordon, but the series would have been different, especially with the couple of injuries that Minnesota went through, but that's neither here nor there. LA and Houston, obviously, again, LA won the playoff series 4-2. They also won the regular season 2-1. Overall, they won 6-3. Then you look at the Eastern Conference. Detroit, again, we just went over this. They won the series 4-3. In the regular season, these two teams tied 2 games apiece. So it was a very close series, and we see that. But altogether, regular season and postseason combined, Detroit only won 6-5. So again, I think that's something that you look at and you go like, wow, like, okay, that makes sense, right? Because it was really that close. Same thing with Philly and Boston, 4-3, and then the regular season, again, they tied 2 games apiece. 6-5 overall in favor of Philly this year. And you got to remember, a couple of those games were played both in regular season and postseason without Embiid, which is a little more impressive for Philly. But I mean, you could say the same thing for Boston. You take out Embiid, but you also take out Jason Tatum because he missed so much of the regular season. Plus, he missed, that last game of the series there. But again, so super close, and the stats show that. The Knicks in Atlanta, 4-2 in favor of New York in the postseason. In the regular season, it was 2-1 in favor of New York as well. So 6-3 overall here. Cleveland and Toronto. Cleveland won the series, obviously 4-3. In the regular season, though, they actually did not beat Toronto at all. Toronto swept them 3-0. So this is another odd, unique circumstance with Cleveland coming out on top. However, Toronto actually won the overall record this season between playoffs and regular season combined, 6-4. And then we get to round 2. There's not a lot we can say right now. We're only a couple games in, but Philly and New York, regular season, they were 2 games apiece, again, without Embiid for 2 of those games, maybe 3. I think 3 games they played without Embiid against the Knicks this year. But they were still tied 2 games apiece in the regular season. So far, the Knicks are out in front, 1-0 in the series. Minnesota and the Spurs. Regular season, Minnesota took this series 2-1. They're also up 1-0 right now, so 3-1. They're the early favorite, it looks like, to maybe be that team that takes the Spurs out. I don't know. We gotta look and see what happens. I'm not giving up on San Antonio. But man, Minnesota is tough. They really are, even with some of these injuries that they still have. Ant-Man, it's crazy how quick he can come back from injuries, especially, when he was already kind of dealing with an injury to come into the playoffs and then hurt. The injury he was already dealing with was a knee injury, and then he ended up hurting his other knee. So, yeah, this is going to be a wild series. It could wind up going 7 games. The Lakers and OKC are kicking off tonight. Obviously, I showed it on the graphic. I don't think we went over it. But OKC swept the Lakers in the regular season 4-0. And seemingly without Luka, I think it's not too far-fetched to say that OKC, if they stay healthy, could do the same thing in the postseason, or at least maybe a gentleman's sweep. I think even if Luka came back, I don't really see the Lakers being able to compete at the highest level with the returning champs from last season. Cleveland and Detroit, regular season, this was a tied 2-2. So, again, that's another one coming on tonight. We'll see what happens there. I have been talking about NBA for far too long now, so we're going to go ahead and get to some ice. Okay, so again, just like we did with NBA, we're going to go back to last Thursday. Dallas at Minnesota. This was Game 6. Minnesota won 5-2. Quinn Hughes led the Wild with three points, 3 shots on goal, 2 goals, and an assist. Matt Boldy led Minnesota with 5 shots on goal. Jesper Wallstedt, 21 of 23, which is a save percentage of .913. Dallas's goalie, Jake Ottinger, was 16 of 19, just a .842 save percentage. Then you get to the next game, the Anaheim Ducks. They ended up beating Edmonton 5-2 in Game 6. They won the series 4-2. There were 3 different Ducks with 3 points in this game. Troy Terry, Chris Kreider, and Leo Carlson, which, by the way, they all had 2 assists in this one. Cutter Gauthier and Troy Terry both had 5 shots on goal each. Lucas Dastaal, 25 of 27 with a .926 save percentage. Connor Murphy led the way with 4 shots on goal for Edmonton. But, the superstars, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, combined for a total of just 4 shots on goal, 1 assist, and 1 point. Obviously, no goals. Their goaltender, Connor Ingram, went 26 of 30 with just a .867 save percentage. So, what's to come for Edmonton? I don't know. Because, you want to just sit here and nitpick and say it was a defensive thing. Anaheim certainly seems like one of the top powerhouse teams in terms of scoring throughout the first round of the playoffs. They were largely above and beyond everybody else when it came to goals per game. Well, total goals and goals per game, really. But I don't think you hang your hat on that because, yes, it's fair to say that they were lacking the defense. The goaltender play, obviously, was hurting them in that series. But for the past couple of years now, we've seen that. We've seen that they've had defensive issues. They've had issues in the net. So, for them, it was always about just outperforming on the offense, outscoring the teams that they were playing. I'm very interested. I'm very intrigued to see what they will do and whether they're going to have, 1 new goaltender next year or 2. I think there's certainly some guys that you could go out and look at that may not be happy with their current situations. And 2 of those goalies I'm actually going to bring up later on the show. But let's go ahead and get to Friday. The Tampa Bay Lightning took Game 6, 1-0 in overtime. Kucherov and Darren Radish led Tampa with 6 shots on goal apiece. Gage Gonsalves was the sole goal scorer in this one. Ivan Demidov led Montreal with 5 shots on goal. Cole Caulfield had 4 shots on goal. Jakub Dobes had 32 of 33 saves, which is a .970 save percentage. And then you get to the Buffalo and the Bruins game. And they ended up the Buffalo Sabres ended up keeping the Boston Bruins put at home after winning 4-1. They won the series in just 6 games. They had 3 players with 5 shots on goal, and their goaltender, Alex Lyon, was 25 of 26 for a .962 save percentage. For Boston, the man, as we know, David Pastrnak, led Boston Bruins with 5 shots on goal and was their sole goal scorer. Morgan Geekie had 4 shots on goal, and Jeremy Swayman was 22 of 25. That's just a .880 save percentage. That's obviously not going to get it done. Again, you go back, you rewind to, I believe it was both of the first 2 games of the series. Boston should have been up 2-0. but it's just, it's been proven time in and time again all season long, specifically down the stretch with Buffalo, that this team was going to be for real. So move over Buffalo Bills, because guess what, guys? You're not the only ones in town anymore. The Sabres have a real shot here. They have a real shot of doing the unthinkable, something that probably not too many would have seen outside of Buffalo happening this year, which is maybe getting, out of the East and getting to a Stanley Cup final, maybe even winning. Obviously, the Hurricanes are going to have something to say about that, but, it's very exciting to see this out of Buffalo. Then let's get to the next game. Vegas Golden Knights eliminated the Utah Mammoth after 6 games. They won 5-1 in this one. Mitch Marner led them with 7 shots on goal, 3 points, 2 goals, and 1 assist. Carter Hart was 22 of 23. A .957 save percentage. And then Clayton Keller led Utah with 7 shots on goal, and Kailer Yamamoto scored their only goal in this one. For Utah, they're ahead of the curve, I think, really. I mean, we're talking about a team that's only in its 3rd season, I want to say. I believe his name is Ryan Smith, the owner of Utah Mammoth. He's got a lot to be happy about, a lot to be proud about with this team. Moving forward, I don't see them falling off. I think just like Vegas, I think they're going to continue to be on a playoff run. There's a lot of teams in the West that are kind of, trying to take that step forward and be on the upswing. There was a lot of teams. There was like 6 teams, 7 teams, maybe down the stretch, fighting for the second wild card spot. But yeah, so I don't think that you make too much out of this. It is the Vegas Golden Knights, and though you did, beat them in the regular season 2-1, you were still in there. You were definitely in the series. You definitely had a shot. So, going forward, I hope to see these guys back next year. It was very fun seeing Utah Mammoth, especially taking down Vegas in 2 of those games. Then you get to Saturday. The Philadelphia Flyers, Carolina Hurricanes, Game 1, Round 2. Carolina with a shutout. They won 3-0. Logan Stankoven led the Canes with 5 shots on goal, 2 goals, and 2 points. And Frederick Anderson, of course, perfect, 19-19. Sean Couturier for the Philadelphia Flyers led them with 5 shots on goal, and their goaltender, Dan Vladar, 20 of 23, a .870 save percentage. Then you get to Sunday. Sunday was Game 7 for the Montreal Canadiens and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Montreal ended up winning in this one 2-1. Nick Suzuki led the Habs with 3 shots on goal. The Canadiens were actually outshot in this one. It was wild. 29-9. This was the fewest shots in a playoff game for a winning team in NHL history. Yeah, man, it's crazy that you only have 9 shots in a game, yet you still win the game. Not to mention that you are outshot by 20 shots. It's just wild, man. It was wild. I think right now it's just a feel-good story for the Canadiens. But again, the team that they're getting ready to play now in this second round is a team that we just spoke about in the Buffalo Sabres. Good luck to Montreal. They were on a heater. They at one point, I think they were on like a 9-game win streak. They had one. Buffalo was on a heater as well. I don't know that Montreal will have the scoring to match Buffalo, but I mean, we'll see what happens, man. It was an incredible way to wrap up a series against Tampa. Two teams from the Atlantic that know each other extremely well. And, so the other game on Sunday, game 1 of round 2 between Colorado and Minnesota. Colorado beat the Wild 9-6. Devin Toews led Colorado with 4 points. They had 4 players with 4+ shots on goal. Nazem Kadri led the Avs with 8 shots on goal. McKinnon and Makar with 3 points each. And Kel Makar led them with 2 goals. Their goalie, Scott Wedgwood, was 30 of 36. That's a .833 save percentage. He faced, obviously, a ton of shots. That's the funny thing. Like, you talk about a game where, Montreal wins with only 9 shots on goal and scoring 2 of them. And then you look at Colorado, who had 42 shots maybe on net and scored 9 of them. It was wild. That was an incredible game, 15-goal game. Ryan Hartman led Minnesota with 7 shots on goal. Quinn Hughes had a team high with 3 points, and Jesper Wallstedt was 32 of 42, a save percentage of just 8.810. Last night, 2 games. Second game, Carolina and Philly. It went to OT. It was a very good game, a very close game. The Flyers ended up losing this one 3-2 in overtime. So now Carolina goes off to a 2-0 start in this series. They had 5 players with 4 or more shots on goal. Eric Robinson led the Canes with 6 shots on goal. Taylor Hall scored the game winner in OT. Frederik Andersen, yet again, a great game out of him. 34-36, a save percentage of .944. The Philadelphia Flyers, Sean Couturier led them with 5 shots on goal and their one of their goals. Jamie Drysdale also had the other goal, and he had 4 shots on goal. And Zegras also 4 shots on net. Then you got to the night game, the Vegas Golden Knights at home against the Anaheim Ducks. They ended up winning this one 3-1. Basically, it was a 2-1 game. Much of the game was 1-0. The Ducks came back and tied it up late on a goal from Mikael Granlund. And directly after he tied that game up, Vegas came right back down the ice and made it a 2-1 lead. And then, with under a minute left, obviously they pulled Dostal, and that's how Vegas ended up getting their last goal. It was a very impressive goal, though, to be honest with you. I mean, the guy, I forget who, I think it was Mark Stone. He flinged the puck up in the air. It came down right in the middle of the ice and just, slid right all the way into the net. It was pretty cool to see, even though I hated it, obviously, because the Ducks are my team. But, Mitch Marner led Vegas with 3 shots on goal, 2 points, 1 assist, and 1 goal. Carter Hart was 33 of 34. .971 save percentage. For the Ducks, Jacob Trouba, Troy Terry, and Leo Carlson all with 4 shots on goal each. I already said Granlund was their sole goal scorer, and Dostal stopped 19 of 21, a .905 save percentage. So, just like I did for the NBA, I'm going to look at the NHL overall matchup. Let's go back to the first round. Colorado swept the LA Kings 4-0. They also swept them in the regular season, so overall, they swept them 7-0. Then you look at the goal differential, which I think is pretty cool. So, in the regular season, They outscored the Kings 13-5, same exact 13-5 goal differential in the postseason. That was a total of 26-10, and you could see, which we all knew coming into the postseason, that it wasn't going to be a fair matchup really for the Kings. Colorado won the President's Trophy, and we can all see why. I mean, they just put up 9 goals against a very, very good Minnesota team. Then you look at Vegas and Utah from the first round. Playoffs, again, Vegas won that 4-2. Regular season, it was Utah that won that 2 games to 1 rather. Overall, Vegas won 5 games to 4 against Utah this year. The goal differential was actually in favor of Utah in the regular season, 10-5. In the postseason, it was in favor of Vegas, 23-18. So this is like another thing, it's pretty rare probably, to see that it was even Steven. It was 28 goals apiece when it's all said and done between regular season and postseason between those two. Minnesota and Dallas, regular season, it was split evenly, 2 games apiece. Then Minnesota obviously won 4-2 in the postseason. Overall, they won 6 games to 4 against the Stars this year. Regular season goal differential, it was tied 13-13. Postseason, Minnesota took it 23-15. Overall, 36 goals to 28 of the Stars. Edmonton and Anaheim. Regular season, Edmonton won this series 2-1, and obviously in the postseason, Anaheim took it 4 games to 2. Overall, that means Anaheim wins 5 games to 4. However, in the regular season, they were outscored 12-16 by the Oilers. In the postseason, Edmonton was outscored 26-21. So overall, the Ducks win by 1 game and by 1 goal, 38-37. Then you look at the Eastern Conference, Carolina and Ottawa. Carolina took the regular season 2 games to 1. They swept, obviously, in the postseason 4-0. So overall, they beat Ottawa 6 games to 1 this year. They outscored Ottawa 11-10 in the regular season. Then they went on and outscored them 11 goals to 5 in the postseason. That totals 22-15 goals in favor of Carolina. Buffalo and Boston. So Boston actually won 3 games to 1 in the regular season. Buffalo won the series 4-2 in the postseason. So they tied 5 games apiece this year. Boston outscored Buffalo 12-11 in the regular season, and the goal differential in the playoffs was 20-12 in favor of Buffalo. Thus, they had a 7-goal differential, 31-24 over Boston. Tampa and Montreal tied 2 games apiece in the regular season, 4-3 in favor of Montreal in the postseason. Overall, they beat Tampa by 1 game this year, 6 games to 5. Then you look at Tampa. Tampa won the goal differential 13-11 in the regular season. Montreal won 16 goals to 15 in the postseason. Though Montreal won 1 more game than Tampa all throughout this season, they actually lost in the goal differential, which is a very odd and unique thing that probably doesn't happen too often. They were outscored 27-28. So that's, pretty weird that happened. Pittsburgh and Philly tied in the regular season 2 games apiece, although Philly's 2 wins in the regular season came in extra time. And then we seen they outmatched Pittsburgh 4 games to 2 in the postseason. Overall, they beat Pittsburgh 6 games to 4 this year. Pittsburgh outscored Philly 16-11 in the regular season. But then it was the complete opposite of that in the postseason. Philly outscored Pittsburgh 16-11. So this was a clear-cut 27-27 tie for the goal differential here overall this year. Then you get to round 2, where we are currently sitting right now. Carolina and Philly, we already said it. They did beat them already 2-0. In the regular season, they also beat Philly 3-1. So far, they are up 5-1 over Philly. In the regular season, they outscored Philly 13-11. So far, they have outscored them in the playoffs 6-2. Colorado and Minnesota tied in the regular season 2 games apiece. Playoff record right now, obviously it's only been 1 game played. Colorado is up 1-0. So far it's in favor of Colorado 3-2. In the regular season, they outscored Minnesota by 1 goal, 12-11. Right now, after 1 game, obviously 9-6 is the goal differential. Vegas and Anaheim. Anaheim swept Vegas this season, 3-0 in the regular season. In postseason, they're obviously down 1-0. So right now, Vegas is just 1-3 against Anaheim. Anaheim outscored them 12-9 in the regular season, and right now they are out. Vegas is outscoring Anaheim after 1 game 3-1. Buffalo and Montreal. This was dead even, 2 games apiece in the regular season. Obviously, we won't know until later tonight, who will be off to a 1-0 start here, and who would be off to a 3-2 game lead. But in the regular season, the goal differential, there was no differential. It was exactly the same, 13-13 in those 4 games that they played each other. And obviously you can tell I love talking about the stats of the games. That's going to be it for NHL. Now let's get back to NBA for something I like to call NBA offseason shakeup. Okay, so this is a little bit of what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing from the NBA world, on top of kind of my own thought process as well. So, one that I've been seeing that in certain ways, I guess it could make sense, but in other ways, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'm thinking, what if Kevin Durant ended up on the Denver Nuggets? So there has been graphics out there. There has been rumors circling this. It would take a lot, though, for both parties, because Denver was one of those teams that I think they had an open spot available on their roster just so they could stay under that second apron, towards the end of the year there. They have a lot of money tied up to Jokic. Obviously, Jokic is getting ready to sign a new deal this offseason. Murray is tying up a lot of the money here. Aaron Gordon, we already talked about Christian Brown earlier. His deal kicks in this year. Peyton Watson is somebody that you would love to retain because he will be a free agent if they don't sign him to a new deal. Bruce Brown, I believe this is going to be probably it for him. I know he only signed for a 1-year deal. Some of these other guys, Jonas Valanciunas, I believe it was mapped out as a possible 2-year deal. I think it's a team option. But we've seen, after Denver signed him last year, we didn't know if he was going to be coming back. It looked like he wanted to stay overseas in Greece, maybe? I forget exactly which country, but it looked like he was going to be playing Euroball. And I don't know what's to happen there. I don't know. There's a lot of what ifs about this one, but to me, I think it could make sense for Kevin Durant to become a Denver Nugget for the fact that the Nuggets do need more consistency with their scoring. However, at the same time, it kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense from a defensive aspect. Their defensive rating hasn't been great. I don't know how you would bring KD in and how that would also help elevate the defense. I think there would be a lot of things that would have to happen perfectly here. So, given what I just said, this is one I don't want to happen really. But maybe Aaron Gordon goes to Houston. They would need a return for KD. With the amount of money, I feel like their salaries might be kind of comparable. I don't know how Aaron Gordon would really help. I don't know how he would make up for what they would lack from losing KD. But I know that when Aaron Gordon's healthy, he's still one of the best power forwards in all of basketball. So, I don't know, really. I think it's kind of more just about like a salary thing for this one to happen. Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Boston Celtics. I feel like Boston needs a shakeup. I think that, if they did this, Tatum and Giannis together could be something epic, something special. I think Boston would certainly be favored. I mean, they were favored this year, but I think they would be favored next year. Probably the top team that you would say is going to not only go to the finals, but probably win if this were to happen. And also, why talking about bringing Giannis to Boston, I guess Boston would probably also need to lose somebody, right? And we already talked about, what's been out there the last couple of days. Jaylen Brown going on Twitch and talking about his whole situation and how upset he is. And I get it. But maybe Jaylen Brown ends up, I mean, he's also got a huge deal. They gave him a massive deal. But maybe he talks his way out of Boston. And if he does, hear me out, I think a situation that could potentially be perfect for him is to pair him with Cade Cunningham, right? Him, Cade, and Jalen Duren. Now, Detroit, in my opinion, I think it shows they do need another scorer. I mean, we keep talking about it. Cade, Tobias Harris has been great for them. Don't get me wrong. He's a veteran presence. I don't even know what his deal is and how much longer they would have him for. But this would be another consistent piece that would help Cade and probably help him get to the next level. We don't know how far Detroit is going to go in the playoffs right now. But I think Jaylen Brown going there to be their starting two guard, because right now their starting scoring guard is what? Shooting guard, is Duncan Robinson, I believe. So I think it would make more sense to have him coming off the bench. You put Jaylen Brown in there with that lineup with Jalen Duren and also Cade. I don't know if Tobias Harris would still be able to be there or not. They also have some pieces coming off the bench. I think that would be great for both parties, in my opinion, really, especially if Boston winds up getting Giannis. I don't know if Detroit would be willing to trade somebody like a Duncan Robinson or maybe even a Tobias Harris to Boston in order to get Jaylen Brown. But again, these are just my thoughts, right? And then the last one, we already kind of heard rumors. We've seen the dismantling of the LA Clippers, though Kawhi Leonard kept them afloat and kept them in the playoffs, playoff bound. And really, they should have made their way in, really. It was a heartbreaker seeing them lose in the play-in tournament. But I think Kawhi Leonard could wind up with the Miami Heat. They need more of a superstar element. Yeah, we know they have Bam Adebayo. Yeah, they have Tyler Herro. They have a couple of guys. But they're lacking what they used to have in Dwayne Wade, or when they had LeBron, when they had even Shaq for that 1 year. They had Ray Allen for a year or two. Chris Bosh. They're lacking something like that. Even a Jimmy Butler when he was there. So, and again, we've seen what the Clippers did. They traded Zubac and they traded James Harden. So I think that they're looking to tear down and rebuild. I think they're trying to do whatever they can really to keep their head coach there. I don't know. Again, these are just my thoughts, guys. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think about that. I'm going to move on. We're going to get to some more likelies now. Okay, so in the spirit of possible off-season moves, more likely, what do you guys think is more likely? Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl to leave Edmonton? I live in a world where I'd like to think that neither one of these guys are going to leave. Like I said, I've been rooting for Edmonton for the past couple of years. It was wild to me that my favorite team had to play Edmonton in the first round. I didn't like it at all. Obviously, Anaheim prevailed, but McDavid or Draisaitl to leave Edmonton more likely? I think that it would be more likely that McDavid winds up leaving. I don't know. I mean, he's the best, in my opinion. He's probably in the opinion of many. He's the best NHL player since Wayne Gretzky. And the fact that he went to back-to-back Stanley Cups and did not win, I feel like it's only a matter of time, even if not next season. I don't know. You got to do whatever you got to do, man. If you're Edmonton, to keep McDavid there, but at the same time, if you are Connor, I feel like you got to do whatever you have to do to get to a situation where you can win a cup, right? Then Alexander Ovechkin joins the Philadelphia Flyers, or Corey Perry, rather, flies home to Anaheim. So I was saying I was very upset to see Corey Perry leave Edmonton, but also at the same token to go back to LA to be a part of the Kings. If you're going back to Cali, you're going back to South Cali, why would you not inquire? And maybe he did, maybe he didn't, maybe Anaheim didn't want him, but at least just see. I mean, you see Anaheim was building something special with some of these savvy vets, bringing in Chris Kreider, obviously bringing in John Carlson at the trade deadline. So, I mean, in my opinion, I would like to see Perry go back to Anaheim. And, obviously, he's not in the playoffs now. After starting the season with the Kings, he ended up back with Tampa Bay, who he was with a couple years back. And he lost to another team that he used to be on in Montreal. And so this is like the first time in like the past 6 years or something like that he's not going to be in a Stanley Cup Finals, which is insane because he's been on 4 or 5 different teams that he's been to the Stanley Cup with. Obviously, back-to-back years he was with Edmonton and lost it. But yeah, so I would like to see Corey Perry come back to Anaheim. However, I think that it would be more likely that Ovechkin returns. Washington may not take him back. It was the last year of his deal, and that he could end up with Philly rather than Perry going back to Anaheim. Connor Hellebuck or Jake Ottinger to move on from their current team. Okay, so we've talked about Connor Hellebuck. We've talked about how, this year he did not have a great season. He didn't have the same type of presence that we are used to. Yes, he did when it came time for the Olympics, but outside the Olympics this year, he was kind of more like an average goaltender than the upper echelon superstar type of goaltenders that we've seen, that we have seen him be over the last, however many years of his career here. But, and for Ottinger, he actually came out recently and was saying that he is not in a good situation. Dallas, a couple years ago, we seen them go, 2 or 3 years in a row to the Western Conference Finals, largely, because of scoring, but also largely in part because of Ottinger. And I got this cool thing that I seen the other day, and it says, this is Ottinger saying, "I don't feel like I've accomplished any of my goals. I want to win a Stanley Cup, I want to win a Vezina Trophy, and I want to be a starting goalie for Team USA, and none of those things have happened." So here I think that it's more likely that Jake Ottinger would move on from the Dallas Stars rather than Hellebuck moving on from Winnipeg. Okay, so now we got going back to the Denver Nuggets and their offseason, and it's to be determined what's going to happen. Like I said earlier, it looks like Denver is willing to answer the phone when it comes time to having anybody be moved from the Nuggets, with the exception of Nikola Jokic. So is it more likely that Jamal Murray or Aaron Gordon get traded? I don't think you break up that two-man game that Murray and Jokic have had for all these years. Both Murray and AG have had a lot of ailing injuries, have been injury-prone throughout their careers. So in this one, you would have to pick the offensive abilities of Murray, or you get away from the defensive prowess and the number one defender on your team in Aaron Gordon, who has not been available for the most important part of the season, which is in the postseason for back-to-back years now. Also, kind of linking to what I already said about the possibility of maybe Denver getting like a KD or something like that, they would have to clear a lot of room. But if you're not going to have a great defender come in, if you're going to get somebody like KD, who this year there was a lot of times he let up a lot of blow-bys. I get it. Like, he's 37, 38 years old. He's been in the league a long time. So KD might not be the type of defensive presence that the Denver Nuggets need. But just staying on track with everything else that I've been talking about in this episode here, I would say it's more likely that AG gets traded. And don't get me wrong, like I said, the two-man game between Jokic and Murray, we know how pivotal to this whole team, this whole operation it is. But AG also has a lot of chemistry with Jokic. So, either way, it'd be crazy, but in my opinion, I think it's more likely that Gordon would be the one out. Okay, so the Sixers or the Cavs make the NBA Finals, which is more likely? Really, I don't want to make this about a team thing. I'd rather look at the player aspect. Is it more likely that Joel Embiid or James Harden make the NBA Finals? And when you think about it from that perspective, I would say it's more likely that Joel Embiid and the Sixers make it. Miraculously, Embiid came back just, 2 weeks after the appendectomy. So, yeah, that was crazy. That shows me that he's determined that this year he wants to make it his own. I don't think they're going to win the finals, but if they make it out of the East, if they get there, they're still going to have to see the likes of either Minnesota or OKC or the Spurs. But I think that it's more likely that they'll get there over Cleveland. We don't know what Cleveland is going to have in store right now against the Detroit Pistons. But yeah, so that's my thoughts. I think it's more likely that Embiid and the Sixers would make the finals over the Cleveland Cavaliers and James Harden. And lastly, Paolo Banchero of the Orlando Magic or Devin Booker of the Phoenix Suns wind up on a new team next year. So we've seen the heartbreaking loss out of the Magic after being up 3-1 over the Detroit Pistons. Devin Booker and the Phoenix Suns, they had no business really being in a matchup against OKC. They had no business making the postseason this year, in my opinion. I would have thought that Golden State would have made it over them, and they probably would have had Curry not have missed so much time. Or even the Clippers. After being down, they were 15 games, under 500 and came back regardless of the fact that they traded away, a couple of these pieces. So I think that those teams had more of, should have been, rather, in the postseason than Phoenix. Devin Booker's been a great player for the Suns for a long time, though it seems like he is, perfectly copacetic with being there and not really, making deep playoff runs. Paolo Banchero, he's been great for Orlando, but this is their, third consecutive year that they were one and done. We seen their head coach just got fired yesterday, I believe it was. Maybe today. I think it's, I don't know, I think it's more likely that Paolo Banchero winds up on a new team next year. Devin Booker, I think that Phoenix is going to do whatever they can to keep him around there. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Those are just my thoughts, man. And now let's get to some daily picks. So yesterday I went 1-3 with all my picks. I had Philly beating the Knicks, I had the Spurs beating Minnesota, and I had Anaheim beating Vegas. My only win was Carolina over Philly. For tonight, I'm going to take Colorado over the Minnesota Wild. For the NBA, I'm going to take the Cleveland Cavaliers at Detroit and Oklahoma City Thunder at home against LA. Tomorrow, I'm going to go ahead and take the Buffalo Sabres at home against Montreal Canadiens. I will also be taking the Anaheim Ducks at the Vegas Golden Knights. Then NBA, I will take the Knicks to go up 2-0 against the Sixers. And I will take the Spurs again, this time hopefully to tie the series against the Timberwolves. Thursday, I'm going to go ahead and take the Philadelphia Flyers to beat Carolina in their first game at home. And then I'm going to take Detroit, which I think at this point would tie the series up, winning their second game at home against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I will also take OKC to go up 2-0 against LA. And yeah, guys, so that's going to be it for today. I went a little longer than expected here. Again, you can find Elite Sports Talk wherever podcasts can be found. I'm really pushing to try to get people to go ahead and go into their Google Play Store and download Spotify if you don't already have it, and go ahead and search for Elite Sports Talk and go ahead and hit that follow button, man. Also, follow me on Facebook, follow Elite Sports Talk on IG. TikTok, like I said, soon in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, we'll be doing some live streams over on there, along with Kick and Twitch. And then you can also view the podcast episodes, the videos on Rumble and YouTube. And lastly, Substack. Like I said before, I mentioned that in the opening. You can find Elite Sports Talk there. There's going to be a lot new cool content coming out along with just the episodes. I also transcribe the episodes for anybody that would rather read and see what all I talk about prior to listening or viewing. So go ahead and subscribe there on Substack to Elite Sports Talk. And that's going to be it, guys. Enjoy all the games tonight, tomorrow, Thursday. Hopefully, I'll be back with episode 19 by Friday. And I did say I wanted to get to some of the draft grades per division for the NFL, but there's still so much going on with the playoffs for both NBA and NHL. We're going to get to that soon. If not the next episode, maybe the episode after that. And thanks for listening. And that's it, man. It's over. Time for the playoffs. Playoffs?